Welcome to our Satisfying G's Abroad session. So the agenda that we have for today, we're going to start off with an introduction, followed by defining GEs for the purpose of today's presentation, why attempt GEs abroad, how to find GEs on study abroad programs, and finally concluding with when and how to petition for GEs. Now, this session builds on our Study Abroad 101 and gets quite technical as it outlines academic planning strategies that are perhaps not always the most exciting part of studying abroad, or rather the study abroad planning process, but I think the kind of planning that makes study abroad possible. We hope that you get a chance to explore some of the other more exciting sessions that go more into the depth of the types of opportunities that we offer, or even get to hear from your fellow Bruins who have already studied abroad. My name is Mauricio, and I'm representing the UCLA International Education Office today, which is UCLA students' one-stop shop for study abroad opportunities. At our office is where you can connect with study abroad advisors and coordinators who can tell you a little bit more about the offerings that we have, navigate programs if you have questions about them specifically. It's also an office where you can connect with study abroad returnees. These are your peers who have already studied abroad, and from you can learn a lot more, because our study abroad advisors, advise for a number of programs, but there was no way for us to have been able to study abroad in every single one of these destinations. So often connecting with returnees would give you a better sense of, what it's like on some of these individual programs. Today, I'll be leading this Satisfying GEs Abroad webinar, which is part of our Global Learning Opportunities Week, GLOW, during which we're showcasing different types of programs that are offered, a number of study abroad related resources, funding opportunities. I do want to share that the session is being recorded and will be available in the on-demand section of our GLOW website, which you can find at ieo.ucla.edu/GLOW. So let's define GEs for this presentation. Oftentimes, you might be hearing the more specific GE rather than categories. So categories, you have your foundations of arts and humanities, society, culture, scientific inquiry. Those might sound a little bit less familiar than things like literary and culture analysis, visual performing arts, historical analysis, life sciences, physical sciences, GEs. So these are the GEs that we're going to be focusing on today. Generally speaking, all of these courses are introductory and survey-like. They do not require a specialized background or prerequisites. Generally, any student can sign up for these classes. They also generally carry 5 UC quarter units. On rare occasion, you might find one with 4. And often they're lower division, though there are a few exceptions. The reason why I want to share this brief summary is that keep this foundation in mind as you start searching for courses that on study abroad programs that could satisfy your individual UCLA GEs that you need. There are other non-major degree requirements, which are the writing 2, foreign language, diversity, technical breadth, if any of those apply to you. I won't be referring to these as GEs. These are just other degree requirements that students might have. And you can complete these on a study abroad program as well, but they require a bit of a different petitioning process. So today we're focusing on the aforementioned ones. It might already be obvious when it comes to whether you can complete GEs abroad, and the answer is absolutely. But why would you want to attempt to complete GEs abroad? I'll start off by saying that students are not obligated to study abroad in their major. And I share that because one of the most common ways that students who just start exploring study abroad come to us with is they'll say something like, I am a history major. What's a study abroad program that I need to do? Or what's the study abroad program for me? And it doesn't quite work that way. There isn't one study abroad program for history majors, or a couple of set that it's the only options that you have as a particular major. Students can study abroad in the major if they wish, but they don't have to. I've kind of already shared this in a couple of slides, you could focus on your GEs on a minor foreign language. If you just need units, upper division or lower division from a study abroad program, you can make progress towards your degree with these. You could also just do it for personal and professional development or a combination of all these things, right? Most programs are not going to be designed around a certain major. So if you're an engineering major and you're trying to look for the programs that have engineering in the title, you might not find those because most, again, programs are not designed around a particular major. It doesn't mean that you can't work on your major. It's just that's not the way that our programs are created. So we encourage students to expand your study abroad search options beyond just programs that are for your major. But more directly answering the question, so again, why would you want to work on your GEs? We have 3 points here. Number one is flexibility. If you are able to do GEs abroad, it may open up more options in terms of when you can study abroad, where you can study abroad, and for some students, even whether you can study abroad. There are certain majors that might say, you know, you need to be on campus and you need to complete your major requirements on campus. So you might not have that, you might have less flexibility unless you were to still have GE requirements outstanding. And then they'll say something like, yeah, work on your GEs on that study abroad program. Second reason, you're making academic progress. 95% of UC students that are studying abroad are making progress towards their degree. It's rare that a student just goes and does this for fun, even though you're still having fun, even while making progress towards your degree. Last one here is coursework. Sometimes folks just want to take a break from their major while studying abroad. So they might want to focus on, again, their breadth requirements and or complete their breadth courses in a more immersive way. It's a very different, let's say, taking a history course on Italy in a classroom in UCLA than taking that history course while studying abroad in Florence, Italy, right? So it's just a different way to engage with your coursework. So how to find GEs on study abroad programs? The most straightforward way, I would say, is that are two of our main programs, the UCLA Travel Study Program, which are the ones with UCLA professors during the summer, they're short-term programs, or the UCLA Global Cities Program, which is our unique two-city exchange cohort summer program where a group of UCLA students goes abroad and take courses at a local university with a local cohort of students, which afterwards, after you spend about 4 or 5 weeks abroad, you all come back to UCLA and take courses together during UCLA summer sessions. These are the most straightforward because as you explore the individual travel study programs or the global cities programs, you'll see exactly what GEs they're offering. With travel study, they're UCLA courses, so it tells you exactly what you're going to get. And with global cities, they've been pre-approved already. So you also know exactly what GEs you're going to get by exploring the individual program pages. For UCEAP, which is one of our larger programs that offers 150 options, finding GEs requires a bit of researching and petitioning, but it's quite common. Students do this all the time. The rest of the session will really focus on how to identify UCEAP courses that can satisfy GEs and how to petition that. So with the first two options that you see here, again, travel study and global cities, there's no petitioning process. It's straightforward, automatic. With UCEAP, that'll be the focus of the rest of the session on how to go about the petitioning process with your respective schools or colleges. The first place to look, I would say, is our online resource titled the UCLA UCAP Credit Abroad Database, which maintains a historical record of courses previously approved for GEs for UCLA students. It also contains major credit data, but today we're only going to focus on the GE credit search function. This is a great tool to look for programs based on what GEs UCLA students have done in the past on UCEAP. My caution, though, is that if a UCLA student has never petitioned for or followed through on getting credit for a course on a specific program, it will never show up here. So just because you don't see it here doesn't mean that you cannot find a new program and petition for a GE. So again, if you find a really awesome program, really awesome course, but you don't see it here, it doesn't mean that you cannot petition and get credit for it. It's just something that hasn't been done and there's no historical record of it. By the same token, just because you see it here, it's not a guarantee of future credit. There may have been a one-time exception that was made and you'll see a record of it here. Policies may have changed for departments, or the course itself, the content has changed even though it still has the same title. So it's also not a guarantee that the course will be offered in the future. So I would just say what you're going to see here is simply a first steps exploration tool. I'm going to go through a few screenshots to show you how to navigate the system, but you can access this portal on your own at bit.ly/UCLA credit, all one word, all lowercase. So you're going to see what you see here, which is a disclaimer, essentially telling you what this database is or isn't. You're going to agree to the terms and click submit. Once you do that, you're going to see a couple of filters here. GE's approval are tied to your school or to your college. So, if you and your friend are both in the School of Engineering and you petition for the GE, presumably you would get the same approval because they all fall within the same school. So if something gets approved for arts and architecture, it doesn't mean that it would get approved for students in letters and science. So to start your filters, you want to select your school. You don't need to select your major because once you're in the school, it doesn't matter what your major is because the GEs are not tied to individual majors. It's tied to the bigger school. Select GE. Again, there are other data points that you can search later on, but today's presentation is just going to focus on the GE search function. If you want, you can select country to narrow down your options, but if you're open to anything, if the most important thing is finding a philosophical linguistic analysis GE, then you want to leave this a little bit more open. Ignore the partner institution. That gets a little too granular, so just keep it as all. UCEAP subject, also don't worry about that. Leave it at all. The most important thing is that you find the GE and not any specific subject. So you click search, and these are the results that you're going to get. The reason why I put a huge X here, my example specifically, I started just as an example, I searched for School of Engineering. So it shows me a bunch of records of individual students for individual requirements that they got individual credit for. So again, ignore the individual majors. This is just data for the School of Engineering. So what this tells us is that, let's say that first record up here, we had a student in the School of Engineering that took this anthropology course, South American Indigenous Languages, at a university in Chile, and they satisfied their philosophical and linguistic analysis GE. This student down here, they took an art history course in Japan, ancient Eurasian art, and they were able to satisfy the historical analysis GE. Student down here, and again, School of Engineering, went to University of Melbourne in Australia. They took this street art course and they were able to satisfy the social analysis GE. It also seems that maybe another student went on that same program and got it to count towards the literary and culture analysis GE. So you're starting to see, what students have done and gotten credit in the past and where with what courses. But what do you do with this information now? What that is explore a little bit further. So what you would do here then is identify the program that this course is being offered at, and I would just do a Google search. Type in the word UCEAP and that partner institution, and then you're going to come across that program page where you're going to see the most up-to-date courses that are currently offered. If you're having trouble with that, you can also consult with one of the study abroad advisors and we can help you out with that. Browse individual programs again and confirm whether the course is still there. And then you're going to petition these courses with your school or college to confirm that the credit can still be applied for you. Now, again, because it's a historical record, you're not always going to find all the information that you're seeking through here. So what happens if this catalog doesn't offer you any leads? Then you're going to do a little bit more detective work. And we broken it down into 5 steps. There's a lot of text here, but they are 5 simple steps. Part 1 is first identify the missing GE categories using your DARS. So identify what GEs do you still have outstanding. Then look at the current UCLA courses that satisfy that category. Here's a quick bit.ly link where you can see the GE catalogs that we have at UCLA. So for example, here's where, if you have the historical analysis GE that you still need to complete, look at what UCLA courses satisfy that historical analysis GE. This will then start giving you an idea of the type of course that could satisfy that category, and you're going to start identifying patterns. So it's going to give you a base of, what you need to be looking for. Then pick a program that you're interested in going abroad on and browse through their courses. Now, are there courses are there courses that you think could fit that GE category that you still have outstanding? Don't always look at the title. Where possible, go into the course description, because sometimes the titles might not always tell you the full picture. One important thing that we want to showcase here is that you're not required to find the exact UCLA course. So what we don't want you to do is, find a specific UCLA course and try to find that exact same course abroad. Again, try to find the type of course that is satisfying the GE, because you're going to find a lot of exciting courses that are not offered at UCLA that you can still use to satisfy these GEs. So you're not looking for a one-for-one necessarily. If you do find a couple of leads here, now you're going to dig a little bit deeper. What you want to do next is find a syllabus, or as detailed syllabus as possible. Ideally, you want to have these things on a syllabus: learning outcomes and objectives, readings and texts, and week-by-week breakdown. You're rarely going to find something that has all of these things. So you're just going to have to do as best as you can. Some partners abroad don't always have these syllabus easily accessible. Again, this is where the study abroad advisors can come in handy to help you out to find as much information as possible. In the absence of this traditional syllabus, simply get as much information as possible. Sometimes it's just going to be a detailed course description, and that's as much as you can get. But the more information you have, the better they can to make that assessment for the substitution. In some cases, you might be able to find a faculty contact information from the partner abroad and simply politely write to them and ask, if they could provide some kind of memo that outlines the information that the school, that UCLA is looking for, which are these 3 bullet points right here again. If they can put that on departmental letterhead, which again, you might even be quite a big ask, the more you can do, the better. Once you've gathered that information, you're going to submit your petitions to the college or school for review and indicate which specific GE you're hoping to substitute. What you don't want to do is write to them with something like, what GE will this course satisfy? They'll probably just send it back to you and have you, be a little bit more specific. What you want to do is say something like, I would like to satisfy the historical analysis GE with this course, and then, attach the course description or syllabi. When it comes to multiple petitions, it's very easy to want to submit 6, 7 petitions to see what lands. I would say scale it down a little bit. If you only need to satisfy one course, start with 1 petition and see where that goes. If you're depending on 2 different GEs, then obviously submit those 2 petitions. So, and if it gets denied, then, go back to it and submit another one, or just, go by their guidelines. Sometimes they might then encourage you to submit a few more, but always start, with what you need. I was a bit detailed and lengthy, but as a summary in terms of the steps that you would be doing for identifying courses is identify the GEs that you need. Look at which courses, UCLA courses satisfy those GEs to get a better understanding of that category. Pick a program, browse your courses, find a syllabus for the courses that you're looking for, or as much information as you can, and then you submit your petition to the school or college. A couple of additional tips, and again, this is going to get very granular. You might not memorize all these things, so you might just have to come back to our on-demand recording whenever you actually start this process. But here's a couple of tips for some individual categories that might be really helpful for you. For historical and social analysis GE, there should be a focus on the analysis component. So it's not just good enough to, of course, that's where you're learning about history or society. There has to be an analysis component to this. So be on the lookout for courses like that. For the philosophical and linguistic analysis, if you're finding courses on, theorists or ethics, morality, you're on the right track. Equally, when it comes to the language component, the linguistic component, different types of languages, their origins, the study or structure of languages, you're also going to be on the right track. Things that don't work for this category are logic courses and foreign language courses. So if it's studying the actual language, Japanese 1, Spanish 3, 7 or 102, that's not going to count. The actual learning of a language is not something that counts towards the philosophical and linguistic analysis GE. For literary and culture analysis, there's really a focus on the literary and literature component of it, not as much on the culture component. The culture component is really more appropriate to petition for the social analysis GE. The focus here again is literature, analysis of text, which can also be plays, by the way. That's what you're going to be looking for to, look for courses for LCA. For visual and performing arts, skill development and performance do not count for GE. So, piano or ballet, those are generally not going to count for VPA. On the other hand, you want to be looking for things like the history or appreciation of theater, music, art, film, television, or related media. So when should you start this, and how exactly should you go about the actual petitioning process once you've identified the courses that you're interested in? You want to start now. Definitely do not wait until you're abroad. I would say start consulting your respective school or college during the planning stage, which hopefully that's now, especially if you're interested in going, say, summer 2022 or fall 2022, because they can offer a review of this proposed coursework. You want to update your college or school of any changes to discuss plans. So if they approve something and something changes, do let them know as soon as possible so that you're prepared for that. Once you're abroad, sometimes there might be changes that happen, the course falls through that you had petitioned. At that point, you want to just email, or now that virtual drop-in advising is a little bit more widespread, you might want to just connect with your school or college as soon as possible if you're already abroad. Now I'm going to go one by one in terms of the schools, what the process that they have for your, for their respective students. If you're part of the College of Letters and Science, you're going to submit a petition via MyUCLA. You can access their instructions at this bit.ly /UCLA CACGE, all lowercase, and you're going to get a response within 10 to 15 working days. For the School of Engineering, their course evaluation process is done via the Message Center. You can access the form at bit.ly /UCLA ENGGE. And you want to submit these approximately 1 month in advance. Now, this is the only exception. Engineering students are actually encouraged to submit multiple courses petitions so that they do have backups. Everybody else, they want you to submit one at a time. Contrary advice here is simply for the School of Engineering. For TFT, unfortunately, we don't have any special instructions that were provided to us, so simply reach out to your school advisors to see how to go about their petitioning. Same applies for the School of Arts and Architecture. For public affairs, if you are a pre-major, simply follow the College of Letters and Science procedures that we started off with. They will honor any approvals that were granted by the college. Once you're in the actual public affairs major, you can get a coursework consultation via their academic planning form, which you can access at bit.ly /PUBAFFGE. For School of Education, for Education and Social Transformation majors, you want to submit the petition to Elaine or Vanessa via the Message Center, and they encourage you to use the petition template found here, bit.ly /SEISGE, all caps. And finally, School of Music, their academic petition for GE substitutions can be found at bit.ly /UCLA Music GE, the number 2. One final note when it comes to this petition process is that as you're having conversations with your college or school, they may end up bringing something like, well, this is, these petitions are going to be, your pre-approvals and things like that. They're going to be conditional on whether your courses on from your study abroad program even transfer to UCLA. One thing that I want to say is that everything that we're showcasing through our office is generally guaranteed to offer, and I'll explain that, I clarify that a little bit more here. The transferring courses which is courses showing up in UCLA records is completely different from satisfying requirements. So for example, UCLA travel study, they're UCLA courses. So there's no such thing as transferring here. For UCEAP, they're UC courses. You're getting UC credit and it is 100% guaranteed to transfer. For UCLA Global Cities programs, everything that they have on there has been already pre-approved to transfer. So if you hear this, whether if courses transfer, if they're admitted by the admissions or registrar review, you don't have to worry about those things when it comes to any of these offerings right here. So what do you do now? So this is going to be completely up to you. If you haven't watched our Study Abroad 101, I encourage you to check that out. It's now in the on-demand section of our GLOW page, which is io.ucla.edu/GLOW. Check out additional GLOW sessions that are much less technical than this one and probably much more exciting. We have a few major specific sessions that dive into specific programs, which a lot more detail, a lot more excitement. There's some on funding and scholarships. There's identity-based ones. In some, you're again even hearing from your peers, students who have already studied abroad. If you need to start petitioning for courses like GEs, like we covered in this session, you can start doing that now. I also want to clarify that the petitioning process of GEs does not prevent you from applying. If you want to know what the credit you're going to get before you apply, feel free to do so, but we're not checking whether those students are satisfying GEs or you're making progress towards your degree. We hope that you are, or hope you're doing your due diligence, but we're not checking that. If you want to go on a study abroad program and you're not making the right progress that you're supposed to graduate on time, we're not checking that. Your department will be. So it's not going to prevent you from applying. It's two completely independent things. But whenever you are ready and the program you are interested in is open this month, all of our programs will have been open by the end of the month. Go ahead and apply or register for that specific program. Now, this is wrapping up our session here. If you want to join our email newsletter and get updates about things like scholarships and deadlines, you can do so by using the QR code here or using bit.ly/UCLA IEO list. And in terms of how to get a hold of us, we are in Murphy Hall 1332. At this time, our physical office is still closed to the public, but this quarter we will start opening up a few hours a day once we can get fully staffed. Once we can get our front desk fully staffed, we're going to start opening up this quarter. In the meantime, all of our advising is still virtual. We offer drop-in advising Monday through Friday. You can access that at this link here, our website /contact. You don't need an appointment for those. So if you have just any question, you can just drop in and talk to one of our intake advisors, or sometimes it might be a study abroad advisor on that session. Or once you answer general questions and you require something a little bit more, a one-on-one with our study abroad advisor, you can schedule those one-on-ones as well. If you want to get our information via other media, you can follow us on social media. Our handle is at UCLA IEO, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's also another place where you can get updates on our deadlines, scholarships that are coming up, and things like that. So this wraps up our Satisfying GEs Abroad session. Thank you for logging in. And we hope that we've made navigating GEs on study abroad programs just a bit easier. Have a good day.